Open your Instagram feed and you will see several people boasting one of two things: pleasure and honor. According to Aristotle, most people lead their lives pursuing things that fall under either pleasure or honor, such as validation, recognition, to use current parlance. Few, however, seek something beyond, which is virtue. For the Greek thinker, pleasure and honor are important to lead to happiness, but they are not the main thing. And what is virtue? Virtue is a state of character, and end in itself, but also a mean to the ultimate end of human existence, which is eudaimonia, happiness or flourishing. Yes, the meaning of life is happiness in an Aristotelian sense of the word. But what is happiness for Aristotle? It's not a feeling. It's not about being joyful, laughing all the time. And it's not about having much pleasure nor much honor. Happiness from Greek eudaimonia is like being under the influence of a good diamond. It is the greatest good, the supreme end, formed by the set of goods such as health, virtues, friendship, family, honors, and also pleasures. But all of this in its fair measure, in its golden mean, or close to it. Nicomachean Ethics is the book that many scholars consider to be the foundation of the field of ethics. Aristotle defends what we know as virtue ethics. There are two other types of ethics that compete with this approach: deontic ethics, or ethics of duty, and consequentialist ethics, based on the principle of utility. The last two are modern, while the first is ancient, and goes back to Aristotle and intuitively to his master Plato and his master's master Socrates. Only since the 1950s of the 20th century has virtue ethics once again gained attention in modern philosophy, in which the idea of duty predominated much more. The correct took precedence over the good or the excellence. But the tide is turning, and virtue ethics is enjoying an increasingly robust revival in analytic philosophy. If you have already learned from this introduction, stay until the end of the video, because in it you will understand the essentials of Aristotle's ethics, whose teachings are timeless and are even separated, by the way, from the Christian philosophy, which, as many know, appropriated much of Aristotelian philosophy. Although common sense makes the fallacy of thinking that virtue implies being religious, you will see that Aristotle articulates a virtue ethics that does not have any type of faith as a prerequisite. In other words, it is perfectly possible to be an atheist and defend a meta-ethics that affirms an objective natural morality and a normative ethics based on the virtues. Here's what the first sentences of the work look like. Every skill and every inquiry, and similarly every action and rational choice, is taught to aim at some good. And so the good has been aptly described as that at which everything aims. But it is clear that there is some difference between ends. Some ends are activities, while others are products, which are additional to the activities. In cases where there are ends additional to the actions, the products are by their nature better than the activities. What Aristotle is saying here is that every action we take aims at some end, and this end we perceive as good. I go to the market because I understand that I need to buy food. And I understand that food is a good because it keeps me nourished. A student studies for the entrance exam because he wants to go to a good university, because he understands that going to a good university is a good. A single person goes to a party on Friday night with the aim of meeting and having relations, possibly, with someone, as she understands that this end is a good. A woman buys makeup in order to improve her aesthetics, as she understands that this purpose is a good, as it can attract interesting guys or girls. So it is clear that everything we do has an end in mind, and that end is something we perceive as good. That's why the good is what everyone aims at. Aristotle characterizes the good as that which is desirable. Unlike his master Plato, who believed in the existence of an abstract entity that would be the idea of good, Aristotle states that good, in fact, only exists in things. For the philosopher of Stagira, there is no good in itself, hovering in a supersensible world. This is why Aristotle appears pointing his hand downwards and Plato upwards in this masterful image by Raphael, which adorns a wall in the Vatican Museum, which I had the privilege of visiting and contemplating in 2022. In this passage from chapter 6 of book 1, Aristotle debunks his master Plato, so to speak. Those who introduced this idea did not set up forms for series in which they spoke of priority and posteriority, and this is why they did not postulate a form of numbers, but the good is spoken of in the categories of substance, of quality, and of relation. And that which exists in itself, namely substance, is naturally prior to what is relative, since this seems like an offshoot and attribute of what is. So there could not be some common form over and above these goods. If you pursue, for example, very heavy narcotics, this apparent good will harm you. And why isn't it just subjective that it will harm you? Because for Aristotle, the human being has an end, which is to be happy, which consists of the good means that we have seen, living up to his essence as a rational animal. And this habit of consuming such a substance takes him away from this end. And Aristotle goes further. He even says that that's what happens most of the time. It is very difficult to be virtue. It is very hard to be good. It is easier to make a mistake than to make a correct action in this life for Aristotle. This is why people make mistakes all the time. The word for virtue is arete, which can be translated as excellence. It consists of moral rectitude. The term virtue came from a Latin translation tradition, and something of the original is lost, as in almost any translation. We saw that virtue is a state of character, as a practice that needs to be cultivated. Virtue is not learned in the classroom, but rather by practicing in the world with people, which is where ethics resides. We also saw that good is what is desired, but why, for Aristotle, is happiness the greatest good, the purpose of human life? Happiness is the greatest good because it is desirable in itself, it is not desirable in view of another good, and all other goods are desirable in view of it. Although certain pleasures, honors, and virtues are good to have for their own sake, although they have intrinsic value, although they are ends, they are also means to another ends, which is happiness. Happiness, on the other hand, is the only end that is not a means to a thing. Therefore, happiness is the purpose of human existence. Eudaimonia can also be translated as flourishing, a life of excellence, in which man fulfills his essence. This year I had the privilege of walking in Aristotle's footsteps. In other words, of being a peripatetic. Well, I visited the Lyceum, the school he founded after leaving Plato's academy, where he had been a student. Aristotle used to teach while walking, and encouraged walking to philosophize, which is why his disciples were known as peripatetics, from the Greek peripatetikos, which means one who walks or itinerant. This name comes from the Greek verb peripateo, which means to stroll or to walk around. Aristotle thought that thought and philosophical reflection can be stimulated by physical movement, and at the Lyceum there was a gym space where the disciples trained in physical education, boxing, and pancration. Aristotle ethics values practical wisdom, phronesis, the ability to deliberate well. It takes into account the discernment and character that is formed through successive choices. Your choice always matters, as it forms your character, which can promote virtue or vice. The virtues can make mistakes. He is only human, after all. Vice only consists of committing a mistake, insisting on it, as part of one's character. Therefore, to be good, one must perform good acts by choice. In Nicomachean Ethics, Aristotle teaches that virtue lies in the middle way, also called golden mean, between two vicious extremes, excess and deficiency. He does not mean that we should be mediocre, but rather that we should seek an appropriate balance for each situation. If you are at a party and don't know how much to talk, being completely silent can be socially awkward. If you chatter and monopolize conversations, this may also be socially undesirable. In turn, if you speak and listen in a balanced manner, you will be well placed in this context. If you never face your fears, you might be a coward. If you take risks without thinking, you may be reckless. But if you face challenges in a balanced way, without running away or exposing yourself uselessly, you have the virtue of courage. The same logic applies to other virtues. Generosity is somewhere between avarice and waste, temperance between extreme deprivation and excessive indulgence. Self-confidence is somewhere between false humility and arrogance. Life should be based on balance. Making mistakes is part of it, but the important thing is to learn from mistakes and get closer and closer to the right measure, to the golden mean. After all, for Aristotle, this is how we achieve eudaimonia, true happiness. We are what we do repeatedly. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit. And when Aristotle said that 2,300 years ago, it was not yet a cliché, okay? And it turns out to be true. In Nicomachean Ethics, in Book 5, Aristotle devotes a detailed analysis to justice, which he considers one of the most important virtues, as it regulates relationships between individuals and maintains harmony in society. For him, justice is not just one virtue among others, but the complete virtue with regard to others, as it involves treating others correctly and proportionately. Aristotle divides justice into two major types: universal justice and particular justice. Universal justice corresponds to the totality of virtue when applied to social relations, being essential for the harmony of the polis, as it involves respecting the laws and acting morally correctly. Particular justice manifests itself in a more specific context, subdivided into distributive justice and corrective justice. The first seeks to distribute goods, honors, and resources in proportion to merit, ensuring that each individual receives according to their value and contribution. The second, in turn, aims to correct imbalances in transactions and interpersonal relationships, reestablishing equality when one party receives more or less than what is due. In this way, Aristotle understands justice not as absolute equality, but as proportional measure that respects differences and balances relationships within society. Aristotle dedicates a great portion of the work to friendship, even more than one entire book of the Ethics. So, what is friendship for Aristotle? He says that there are three different types of friendship. The first is friendship based on utility, the friend who provides you with something useful, such as collaboration on a project that is important to you, and anything external that is valued by both of you. The second is friendship based on pleasure. That friend who is good to be with, is good to be around. You simply have fun and don't watch the hours go by. The person's presence pleases you. Our first friendships at schools, for example, are of this nature. The third is the noblest of friendships. Friendship based on virtue. When two virtuous people, or those who are seeking virtue, meet and in addition to taking pleasure in each other, they seek to desire and promote the good of each other, just as they seek individually to become better. It is the rarest and most valuable type of friendship. So for Aristotle, there is no point in having 30, 40 friends if none of them is of this deeper type. Friendships based on utility are not fake, by the way. They are also nice. They are very common and the easiest to end naturally. You must have already characterized all your friends after hearing this. Am I right? It is quite intuitive. Aristotle considered that friendship is fundamental to happiness and that the lack of contact can make it easier for the friendship to end, contrary to what many people think. Just like virtues, friendship needs practice, encounter, frequency to solidify. If you stop seeing someone after a long period of time, you tend to think about them less and less. Of course, I don't take Aristotle to be right in absolutely everything he's written. I also agree with many things taught by Kant, Nietzsche, and other thinkers. However, this book is a solid ground to start thinking about ethics and not a bad guidance for your life's conduct. So, I think Aristotle is the greatest philosopher of all time, even though, as any philosopher, he makes mistakes and is not right in absolutely everything. And Nicomachean Ethics is one of the most important books in philosophy. It's a must read. So here's your chance to read the book and put into practice everything that you learned in this video. Especially you who are going through a difficult period and feel lost, perhaps now things can become a little clearer and the path to change can be mapped out. You already know what to do. If you want to see positive changes in your life, seeking to focus on virtue, a balanced life, and changing your perspective on pleasures and honors is a truly classic recipe. Whether religion is important to you, that's up to you. But I hope this video has shown you that philosophy is a solid path to virtue, and it already was centuries before Christianity was invented, and that philosophy can transform lives for the better. Alright, this was Thoughtful Skeptic episode 2. Leave a comment, a thumbs up if you liked, and help the video to reach a broader audience, as the channel must grow so I can continue to produce videos of this quality for you guys. So, hope you enjoyed and I'll see you next time. Consider leaving a simple comment and your thumbs up, and stay curious, for truth begins with doubt.